Every now and then, there is something that changes how I think about the world. Grounds for Thought is a place where I talk about these moments so that you can explore the meaning for yourself. I was finding it very hard to read. Now, the first time, it was all about holding that page further and further away from my eyes. Then I learned I should also increase the amount of light because it helps the eyes have more options to get things in focus. Finally, my arms weren't long enough, and even sitting in bright sun on the page was not enough. I went to the eye doctor. No problem, it's perfectly natural, she said. I left with new glasses that allowed me to read again. Years went by, and I realized that once again, I was finding it very hard to read. I increased the light. Only this time, it made it worse. I held the page at different distances, but it made no difference. I thought maybe I had just was being lazy. I mean, after all, it's easier to watch a video than to read. I decided I was definitely getting lazy. So I spoke to myself about this laziness and tried again with renewed purpose. Still, reading was very hard to do. So finally, I went to the eye doctor. No problem, she said. This is perfectly normal. This time, I left her office with an appointment with a surgeon. You guessed it, I had to have cataract surgery. Now, 2 months later, well, it took time to put all the medical stuff together, I had my right eye done. Now, at first, I was stunned at how well I could see when I closed my left eye and used only the right one. Then I experimented and I closed my right eye and looked at the world through my left one. Wow, it was like looking at a world done in sepia. You know, like old photos that have that lovely yellow tint to them. Only then did it occur to me that I had been looking at a world with all of the colors biased toward yellow. The shift had occurred so slowly, I never noticed it. I could hardly wait for the surgery on the second eye. You see that with one eye done and the other not, when I looked at things, my poor brain flickered between sepia and full color. There were times when I could see both colors at the same time. Other times, the colors kind of floated next to one another, almost like lemon ripple ice cream. Now, when the surgery was complete, I anxiously looked at the world. First, it was so bright and colorful. Nothing was hidden. Colors were pure, very important, by the way, to someone who is an artist. The leaves and the trees fluttered independently of each other with such detail. But at night, at night, that was the greatest revelation. You see, all the stars were still there, clear points of light, dancing as they had when I was little. It was like discovering the vision of the universe for the first time. I could see the stars again. Now, for me, this experience was profound. It got me thinking. After all the consulting and coaching I have done, I had to ponder what lessons translated from one setting to another, as both have to do with seeing what is real. Okay, first, did I always bring enough light on a problem at hand? I use the best processes and tools that are known to facilitate seeing the right issue clearly. And there are 2 books that contributed to this. I know, it's grounds for thought, and I always tell you about books in this. The first was Appreciative Management and Leadership by Srivastrava and Cooperwriter. Hard to get a hold of a copy today, but it really was monumental in shifting the way I saw the world. But more recently, Design Thinking and Social Construction by Cilian Camargo Borges and Sheila McNamee. A great book about how to see things and how the world puts things together. Then, was I aware of bias? Remember that sepia bias that I had that shaded everything? My intention is always to create spaces where those participating feel at ease, saying what they see, asking about what they don't see, without fear of retribution because they have learned to trust each other. 2 fantastic books contributed to this. Ed Catmull's famous Creativity Inc. He talks about candor, having real candor in companies. And of course, Brene Brown's Daring Greatly, where she talks about the fact that vulnerability is actually a strength. Did I bring enough voices to the table that nothing is hidden? I always invite those impacted from every level and unit, even when the clients become nervous. They sometimes don't like to see different levels talking to one another. How are they going to understand the problems? Anyway, 2 books contributed to this. One, a rather unusual one. Arlene Nash Ferguson wrote a book called I Come to Get Me, an inside look at the Junkanoo Festival. Now, the Junkanoo Festival is the big annual festival in the Bahamas. It actually occurs around Christmas time. But what's magical about that book and about nothing being hidden is how she describes how the costumes and the floats are created. They're created in what they call the shack. And in the shack, you are always who you are, and you are accepted for who you are. It's a wonderful book, and it describes it very well. The other book is Peter Block's wonderful book, Community, the Structure of Belonging, and the fact that we all wish to belong. And Peter is a marvelous writer, and it's a wonderful book that talks about how communities can really help one another belong. Okay, going back to my lessons, did I give everyone involved enough time to focus on the fine points? Could they see all the leaves fluttering independently? Could they see all the issues and imagine the possibilities? Perhaps the hardest thing to overcome in this one is time. The issues that I deal with my clients are real, and resources are always limited. The best I can do is create moments for focus with sound information and tons of encouragement. And this time I have to tell you about 3 books that informed me on this. One is called Time to Think. It's a small book by Nancy Klein, where she really talks about how you can help each other think through things. Another one is called New Culture of Learning by Douglas Thomas and John Seely Brown, all about the fact that we should be lifelong learners. And then one of my very favorite books, The Creative Habit by Twyla Tharp. She describes her own creative process, and you get done and you say, I can do this too. It's just a wonderful book because all of them help us to be more creative and more accepting of this aspect of looking for possibilities. What's the fine points of things? Lastly, is the leader always able to define the vision well enough that everyone involved can see the stars clearly? Frankly, only the leader can do that. And the one book I always advise is Guy Kawasaki's book, The Art of the Start. Okay, I was sad when I realized my eyes had succumbed to cataracts, nature's wages of time, but a treat to see that my thinking benefited from wisdom, one of nature's rewards of time. All I had to do was use the experience and a little reading as some grounds for thought.